Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video from Logging from Real Life. Really appreciate you coming back and watching another video from us. Really appreciate it. It helps us grow the channel. Those of you who have been watching the channel, you probably have seen the 100 loads in a week series that we've been doing. It's been a lot of fun to do that. The only problem with it is it takes a little bit of time to put those episodes together. I run those episodes in real time because the whole point of the series is to see if we can get 100 loads cut and processed and to the sawmill in a week. So I want to do it in an actual week. Obviously the videos are a lot shorter than that, but each episode does take a full 8 hours of logging to do. So it takes a little bit of time to get the videos filmed and then edited and put together and all that. So it takes a little bit of time to get those out, but I wanted to put something out in between just to give you more content to watch here. So today we're going to be doing an episode on 3 different methods for logging, 3 levels of logging. So depending on if you are just starting off a small business, starting out in the middle of the woods, making a clearing area for a cabin, a field, a couple animals, live on your own, live off the land kind of deal. We're going to touch a little bit on starting that way. We're also going to take a look at what it would be like if you were going to be a mid-size or average company. If you've been in business for a handful of years, accrued a little bit of equipment, but maybe aren't still at the level of putting millions and millions of dollars into brand new equipment, and equipment that could handle jobs that are hundreds of acres and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at what it would look like if you were going to start a average business as well. And then lastly, we'll take a look at if you have been in business for a long time, taking a lot of loans, going to have all the best cutting edge, pun intended, cutting edge specific logging equipment. If you're doing government contracts, doing work for big companies, you're going to be putting millions and millions of dollars into your equipment, having a large operation over, maybe spanning, multiple states, that kind of deal. Take a look at what it looks like if you're going to be running a logging mega business, I guess you could call it. So take a look at what it'd be like to be out in the middle of the woods, start from scratch, what's going to look like to be an average company, and what it would look like to be a major logging corporation. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Leave comments down below if you have any other ideas or if you have questions about either of these 3 logging methods. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can know exactly when more videos are put out, when the Tuesday video of the 100 loads in a week series is out. Really appreciate you watching. Let's jump into the video. Alright, so let's say you're starting a logging company from scratch. You only have enough money for maybe 1, 2 pieces of equipment. Or maybe you're doing a start from scratch series and you are starting by just clearing land out for a small cabin, a barn, a field, so you can have some crops for your animals, stuff like that. Where do you start? Alright, you've sold all your worldly possessions and you need to make your money stretch as far as you can to give yourself the greatest chance for success. So this is where I'd start, and this is where I've seen other people start when they do similar start from scratch series. Start out with this super simple start from scratch hermit in the woods method. There are 2 pieces of equipment I would start with. First of all, you're going to need to buy a chainsaw. Now, I haven't looked around much, but as far as I know, there isn't a handsaw method or mod in Farm Sim 19. If there is one out there, I assume that's probably even cheaper than buying a chainsaw. There are 4 in-game chainsaws that are available. They're all $1,000, doesn't make a difference. Now, other effective options you might have out there would be including, but not limited to, drilling holes in the base of your tree, inserting some black powder, and igniting it from a safe distance. dynamite or C4 would also work. Now with your chainsaw, you can now cut down your trees, cut them down to length, haul them away. In a pinch, a chainsaw can also be used for carving turkey at Thanksgiving time. Now, your second piece of equipment you might need, or you will need for the Start From Scratch series, is something to transport your wood. Now, I've seen two common transport methods. One is using a pickup, and the other is a tractor and some sort of small trailer. What you use is up to you. Starting money, how from scratch you really want to be. I haven't seen this done ever, but if you really wanted to be extreme and take it, as far as you can to be start from scratch, you could, on a map that you buy a piece of property that is close to a sawmill, cut down trees, cut into length, probably meter and a half long, too much bigger than that, you're not going to carry it. But then walk the pieces of wood to the sawmill and start selling it that way. Then build up to buy a tractor, pickup, whatever, and go from there. That's really extreme. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone do that, but that is a way that you could take it even one step further to be start from scratch. Now, the more realistic methods that I'm going to look into would, as far as this would be a pickup. I'm just looking mostly at in-game equipment for this. Once we get into the average and the logging corporation, the expert logger, we'll go into some mods. But for this, it's just going to be in-game stuff. Cheapest pickup I've found is the Lizard pickup 1978. $30,000. 30,000 bucks. You're out the door. As far as chainsaws, like I said, they're $1,000. So, for the first method, pickup chainsaw, $31,000. You're out the door. You're logging. Now, if we go into tractor and trailer wise, the cheapest tractor will be the Fiat 1300 DT. That's $59,000. Trailer wise, if you wanted the cheapest trailer out there, you can go for a tipper trailer. The Stroutman SEK 802 is $8,000. It's not a log trailer, it's a tipper trailer. So again, you probably just have to cut the trees down, come down to a meter, something like that, and then pick them up and put them into the trailer and transport them to the sawmill that way. If you wanted a log trailer now, the cheapest is the Flegel Timber Runner at $28,000. The only problem with that is a full-size log trailer. So it will not be able to hold, your meter-long logs. You'll actually have to have something to load the logs onto the trailer. So if you wanted to buy a trailer that has a loader built onto it, the Stepa FHL 13AK is $54,000. It's a smaller log trailer. You can only probably realistically fit maybe 4 or 5 meter logs in there. They can be longer, but it'll kind of stick out the back. So not as long, you'll get less per log. But yeah, that is a log trailer that has a knuckle boom loader built right onto it. That'll get you started, or you can get a tractor that has a front end loader on it, so you can pick up the longer logs and load them onto the trailer that way. So in that case, you could get the Valtra A series, the Stoll FZ30, which is your front end loader, then the Stoll log forks, so you can actually pick up logs, the Kramp Dolly 10L, because obviously the hookup for the log trailer is what you need for a 18-wheeler. It's not the typical hookup for a tractor, so you need the dolly so you can hook up the tractor to the dolly and then put the log trailer onto the dolly so you can pull it, and then the Flegel Timber Runner. Now, the Timber Runner has the ability to haul logs almost twice as long as the FHL 13AK, and longer logs will bring you better prices. So let's take a look at the breakdown of these three methods. I'll put that up for you right now. So if you look at our first option, the Lizard Pickup 1978, and then with the chainsaw is $31,000. Cheapest method out there. Might take you a little bit longer to make money, but it's the cheapest way to do it. Unless, like I talked about before, you want to just have a chainsaw, be close to the sawmill, cut them down to length, and just walk them to the sawmill. Now, method 2. which is actually kind of surprising to me because it involves more equipment, but it's actually slightly cheaper than just going with the tractor and then the log trailer that has loader attached to it. So the second method is having a tractor, the front end loader, the dolly, and the log trailer. So if you have the Voucher A Series, $65,600, the Stoll front end loader, $5,400, the log forks, $800, $9,000 for the dolly, $28,000 for the log trailer. That comes out to $108,800. So a lot more expensive, but you can haul a lot longer logs, 12, 13-meter logs, get more per log. And then the method 3, which again I found kind of surprising, you just have the tractor and then the log trailer. That again is a shorter log trailer. You can only put 4, maybe 5-meter long logs on there, but it has the loader built right onto the trailer. So if you get the Fiat 1300 DT, as you can see, that's $59,000. If you get the Voucher A Series, it's $65,600. So this tractor is a little bit cheaper, but the trailer with the log loader built onto it is a little more expensive. So the Stepa FHL 13AK is $54,000, comes out to $113,000. So less equipment, but it's actually more expensive. So those are the 3 methods that I came up for when we're talking about just start from scratch. So with that, let's look at what it would be if you went the average logger method. Okay, so now let's say you are into your logging business for the long haul. This is how you're going to make a living. This is how you're going to feed your family. Interestingly enough, this size operation is pretty much the level that the sawmill that I work for is at, and why I picked the equipment I did to represent an average logging operation in this video. So, as an average operation, what might you have? Here's what most subcontractors that we use. This is what the equipment they would use typically. So surprisingly enough, at this level, most loggers still just use a chainsaw to cut down their trees. It gets the job done. It's much cheaper than a feller buncher, and it's not that much slower as far as the cutting goes. One big downside is that once the tree starts going, it's going. With a feller buncher, you are actually holding the tree, and depending on size, you can control almost exactly where it lands. And usually that means you can lay trees down together in a bunch, so it's much easier for the skidder operator to grab the trees. Using chainsaw, though, the skidder driver has to get the tree pretty much one by one wherever they land at when you cut them. If you are lucky, and the trees are oriented in a line-ish with each other, you can grab one, pull up to the next tree, or kind of straddle the next tree, drop the first tree on top of the second tree, and then, re-grab them with the grapple, or hook up another chain if you got chains. Anyhow, again, it's much more time involved when you're doing with just a chainsaw. Also, it's about 50-50 if the skidder will have a big grapple on the back to pick up the logs or chains to pull them. The current logger we use has chains on their skidders, so that's what I have in this video. Obviously, that's another thing that would adjust the time if you've got a grapple, which you just scoop them up, or if you have to get out every time, hook up chains and all that stuff. It just takes more time. Now, another difference from start from scratch compared to average or the logging corporation is where the logs get processed. Usually with all 3 methods, the tops of the trees as well as the branches are cut off right where the tree falls in the woods. From there, as you saw in the start from scratch segment, trees are cut to size and hauled to the mill straight from the woods. Now, as you might guess, as you get into a normal average size logging company, a pickup's not going to cut it anymore. You want to have the full tree length or almost tree length logs getting hauled back to the mill. So cutting them down to a meter so you can pay up yourself ain't going to work anymore. So with this operation, you need a full-size tractor trailer, something that can be loaded up to 80,000 pounds. Tractor trailer, however, can't get into a lot of places in the woods that a pickup can. So an average size logger will usually clear a large, fairly flat area, normally close to the road, that the trucks can pull into and turn around in, or it might be a little tight and they have to just back into this area from the road. We refer to this spot as a landing. Now, landing is where the logger will put the logs, they pull them there, cut them down to the correct size, and then pile them so that they're ready when the next truck arrives. at our landings, we have, for the past many years, we've pretty much always had a Prentice knuckle boom loader. There's all sorts. There's Prentice, Barco, John Deere, Cat, you name it. One of the loggers that we do a good amount of hauling for when we're out doing our own hauling has a John Deere knuckle boom loader. So that's why I decided to use for this video. Now, I did a cost breakdown at the end of the Start From Scratch segment, and I talked about, and that was because I talked about multiple methods. I talked about just the chainsaw pickup, and then, a tractor and some sort of a trailer, some way to load it. Because I've seen that in a lot of other people's videos, either a truck or a cheap tractor and trailer, So, those are pretty common. So I wanted to make sure I covered those, but, usually the whole point of Start From Scratch is to start with very little or no money and, very little equipment and cheap equipment. So I wanted to make sure that I broke down the costs so you can actually see, using those couple different methods for Start From Scratch, how, cost effective those would be. Usually when you get to the average size, you've started at Start From Scratch, you're building your business and just trying to get bigger, so you're just working, trying to make money, and, the equipment you need is what you buy when you can afford it. So you're not, maybe you're buying something that's a little bit cheaper, but, trying to keep your equipment at the cheapest price point as possible is not really what you're looking at. You're looking more at being productive and long-term, having a good business. So I don't really think that breaking it down as far as costs go was something I needed or was important for this segment. If that is something you'd like to see, if you'd like to see, multiple methods for, an average size logging company, I'm probably not going to do it, this cost breakdown for the mega company, the logging corporation, but if you'd like to see multiple methods for a big logging company and the cost breakdown of that as well, please leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to put out a video covering those two subjects in the future. Alright, now we get into the big, heavy-hitting operations. These are the companies that do big government work. These are the companies that usually get called when a Fortune 500 company needs an area cleared for a new headquarters or has huge warehouses to build. These companies have big equipment, and a lot of it, because they can and because they almost have to handle the work they do. I've never worked for one of these companies, but have talked with a lot of guys who do, and it's a very interesting frontier for sure. Now again, like the other two segments, there are hundreds and thousands of combinations of equipment you could use to get this done. I picked a handful that I liked. And if you do any form of any farm sim logging yourself, I'm sure you know of FDR logging. They put out great equipment, and I use a lot of it in this video and other videos of mine. Now, to be more specific about what I use, personally, this is what I use for cutting trees. I really like to be in a low cab machine, so I have what I consider to be a better view of what I'm cutting. Now, if you would start cutting, and you would download one of FDR's high cab machines, I'm sure you do just fine. You just learn that perspective. I just started with a low cab machine. That's what I like. That's what I use. The machine that I use in this video and most of my other videos to fell trees is the Tiger Cat 870C. Now, it's a heavy and stable machine, which is great. The only one downside I see with it is its reach isn't as good as other machines. I'm sure if it did have a bigger reach, it would be a little less stable. But other than that, great machine. Now for the head, I use FDR's C350 buncher head. This is a more advanced version that allows you to control both sets of claws up front, which allows you to fell multiple trees much easier. The other more simplified version, you just have control of one or control them both at the same time. You can't have independent control. Now for this operation, I do choose a grapple skidder to make things go a little bit quicker. It's, the advanced version of logging here, so might as well. And I use the John Deere 648H. This is a great machine. It's great for the job. It does it quickly with the huge, powerful grapple out back. Yeah, much easier than getting out every time you come to log, running out back, hooking up chains, the grapple just makes it so much easier. Now on the landing, we have two John Deere 2154D loaders. In the game, the heads are interchangeable, makes it pretty easy. In real life, that would not be the case, and even if it was fairly easy to switch, a big operation wouldn't want to, waste the time switching back and forth all the time. Just being a bigger operation, needing to move a lot of logs, having trucks coming in and out all the time. They'd want to have a dedicated machine to process the logs, and a second machine that's dedicated to stacking logs and loading trucks. So for processing, I used FDR's Advanced Dangle South Star processor head. It is very rightfully named Advanced. I think I use every axis and every button on both of my joysticks when I'm running it. You have control of everything on this processor head. I'm not going to go into detail on it. That could be a whole other video in itself. If you'd like to see a tutorial on using that processor head, the South Star processor head, or any other piece of equipment that I haven't gone into much detail in on these videos, please let me know and I'll make a video on it. Right now it's just not something I'm going to go into on this video. And finally, to pile the logs and load the trucks, I use FDR's. They have it labeled as the fixed clam power grapple. Now in real life, when I'm loading trucks, like in the average part of the video, the knuckle boom loader I was using had a dangle grapple, not a fixed grapple. It's just what I've used ever since I've been driving a log truck, and it seems to work out pretty well. Now one note I will make, if you do use the FDR equipment for your logging in Farm Sim, the FDR equipment is programmed to apply more power than is needed to grab logs, which is great because the in-game equipment only grabs to a certain pressure, then it stops, because there is a little bit of glitch that if you put too much pressure on it, the logs start to glitch out. Now the in-game stuff doesn't put as much pressure on, and if you play enough, you know that pressure sometimes isn't enough, especially if you try to grab more than one log. It'll slip, the grapple kind of, glitch out, and then the logs will fall out, and it just becomes a pain to do any more than usually just one log at a time. The FDR equipment has the power to squeeze hard enough, plus extra, to the point that the logs will actually try to pop through the claw or grapple head. Easy fix though, if you do see that this is happening and you're grabbing them too tight and the logs start to vibrate a little bit, that's kind of the precursor to them trying to pop through the claw. If you see that happening, just release a little bit of pressure and you'll be good. The logs won't go anywhere. Okay, so now that we've talked about the more expert, advanced way of logging, I did keep track of a lot of times and numbers and stuff like that, prices that I got paid for these logs with these 3 different methods. So why don't we just take a quick look at some of the numbers I put together to wrap up this video. Alright, so let's take a look at the numbers I put together from this video real quick. I won't go into detail on every number, but feel free to pause the video if there's anything that catches your attention. Now there are 4 different things I tracked as I made this video. The first was the time it took to cut down 5 trees. Now, obviously 5 trees isn't a full load for a tractor trailer. It is, however, about 8 loads for a pickup. So I picked 5 trees as a happy medium to measure. To find some interesting numbers here, cutting down trees for the start from scratch and the average logger were the same process with a chainsaw, so I just gave them the same number. It took 2 minutes 10 seconds to cut down 5 trees with a chainsaw. Now what I found interesting were the feller bunch numbers. If you couldn't tell on the video, I was cutting or felling the trees on a bit of a hill. Now getting the machine lined up right on a hill takes a bit of time just to get at the right distance and get the head positioned right so it makes a level cut, because if it's not level, it just doesn't work well on Farm Sim. So you gotta get lined up correctly. So getting the machine lined up right on a hill, to take some time. Then just for fun, I picked another set of trees that were on level ground, picked 5 of them, and I said this time I was going to cut them and then actually be a little more careful with them, and put them in a bunch like I normally would instead of just felling them somewhere, and then just going back for another tree. So I put all 5 of these trees in a bunch. Very surprising to me, felling trees on a hill and laying them kind of just sort of close to each other, and then felling trees on level ground, and then carefully putting them into a bunch so it would be easier for a skidder theoretically to come and pick them up and haul them away to the landing, took the exact same amount of time. Both methods took 1 minute and 45 seconds. Kind of interesting. So now the second metric that I looked at was processing and load time. So how long it took to cut the tops of the trees, the branches off, then for the average and the expert method, pulling the trees to the landing and then getting them cut down to size and loaded onto the pickup or the log trailer. Nothing real groundbreaking. Kind of as you'd expect, the longest was start from scratch. It took 30 minutes 15 seconds. The average method took 9 minutes and 36 seconds, and the expert method took 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Now the third piece I looked at was transport and sell time. Pretty straightforward. Drive the trucks to the sawmill and sell the logs. As I said in passing before, start from scratch took 8 trips. The average and expert method took 1 each, because on log trailer you can usually fit 30 to 40 logs, not 5. So it's pretty easy there. Start from scratch method with the 8 trips took a total of 12 minutes and 38 seconds to transport them to the sawmill and sell them. The average method took 2 minutes and 41 seconds. The expert took 1 minute 48 seconds. Average and expert were slightly different, just because I used a truck that had a slightly bigger engine on the expert, just because you might expect that from a bigger company, bigger operation. You could say it probably was a slightly newer truck too. Now, here's some interesting finds. I tracked total price for the 5 logs sold. Now, just to be clear on this, when I was doing this and gathering the data, I cut down 5 trees, I put them on the ground, and then I saved the game, and we'll say it was at like 1 p.m. And then I went through the process, the start from scratch way, took down all my data, and then I quit the game. Then I started this game up, went to the same save game, and started again. So I jumped back into the game exactly at 1 o'clock with the 5 logs on the ground, exactly where I started with the start from scratch method, and this time I went through the average method. Got all my data, then I quit the game again. I didn't save, I just quit the game again, went back into Farm Sim again, pulled up the same save game, so I started again at 1 p.m. with the 5 logs on the ground, and then I did the expert method. So same logs, same time, nothing changed. So now here are my numbers with the same 5 logs. Now with start from scratch and track, taking 1.5 meter logs in the pickup to the mill, I earned $9,808. Not using the average method, just cutting trees in half and putting them on a log trailer, taking them to the sawmill, I earned $19,183. And with the expert method, and in order to process with the South Star header, in order just to get it to be able to measure from a certain distance, you have to cut off a bit of the end of the log so it knows exactly where the starting point is. It doesn't matter where it's at. There could be 3 inches sticking out past the edge of the head, or there could be 3 feet sticking out. It doesn't matter. It just needs to have a point of reference to start the measurement from. So every time you pick up a tree and cut it with a South Star head, processor head, you lose a little bit of the tree. So keep that in mind here. So, using the expert method with the South Star head, I actually only earned $17,916. So it made a little bit less using the expert method. So now just a few more I'll go through. Again, not going to go through everything, but here are total times to get from cutting the tree down initially to selling the final tree at the sawmill. We'll start from scratch. The whole thing took 45 minutes and 3 seconds. The average logger took 14 minutes and 27 seconds. The expert company got it all done in 10 minutes, 42 seconds. Alright, so how about income per hour? And in this measure, I'm just looking purely at money made per hour. A little bit later, I'm going to look at what it would take to make a certain amount of money, including paying off your equipment first and then making money. But this one is just, what are they making per hour? So in Start From Scratch, I made $13,062.60. In the average method, I made $79,652.40. With the expert method, I made $100,463.40 per hour. It's kind of crazy. It's almost an 8 times difference between Start From Scratch to expert. Now here's probably the most surprising one for me. Figuring in paying off your equipment first, how long until you become a $1 million company? I've seen videos out there, how long until I have a $1 million farm, a $3 million farm, a $10 million farm, that kind of thing. So I want to see how long it would take paying off your equipment first and then making money, how long it would take to be a $1 million logging company. So Start From Scratch actually surprised me on its own. If you just did it the Start From Scratch way and just logged, it would take 78.92 hours, or 9.87 days, or 1.97 weeks. So if you did the Start From Scratch method, you'd have $1 million in just under 2 weeks. Kind of crazy. I don't know if, I'm pretty sure that won't happen in real life, but if you did this in Farm Sim, you get $1 million in just under 2 weeks. And that's based on if you just worked Monday to Friday. You didn't work the weekends. Now the average method takes 17.34 hours, or 2.17 days, or 0.43 weeks. So under half a week, you have $1 million if you do it the average method. Expert took 21.78 hours, 2.72 days, or 0.54 weeks. So just a little bit longer than average. So I guess the takeaway here is, apparently, if you want to be a millionaire quickly in Farm Sim 19, be average. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really appreciate you taking time to watch the video. Thank you for watching. If you are still here, this one took a little bit longer than I was planning on, but there's some important data I wanted to get through and I want to leave out. And like I said, if there's equipment tutorials or just other points that you want me to touch on more, let's see it in a different video, have video suggestions, anything like that, leave it down in the comments below. Like the video if you found this information useful or that it could improve your Farm Sim gameplay. Again, thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video.